Some people assume that as long as they have their home and car insurance, they're covered for flood damage. But that's not entirely true, and today I'll explain why. Also, if you're thinking about buying a car, beware of scammers who are selling cars without telling buyers it was flood damaged in a hurricane. This is because of a little-known loophole in the system, which is the reason why you should look for signs of flooding, even if flood damage isn't documented in a vehicle history report. The National Insurance Crime Bureau said that after Hurricane Ian, scammers have already started buying up flooded vehicles, then reselling them as undamaged vehicles. And these vehicles can also be found across other states, not just Florida. The sad thing is if a vehicle was uninsured at the time it was flooded, there's no documentation of it. It won't be recorded in the vehicle history report linked to the car's VIN number. And that's why it's possible to get duped if you're not careful. Currently, the states with the most flooded vehicles are Texas with over 67,000 vehicles, Florida with 35,000 vehicles, Kentucky with 26,000 vehicles, Pennsylvania with 21,500 vehicles, and New Jersey with 18,900 flooded vehicles. Now, this is why, even if a car's vehicle history report doesn't mention flood damage, you should still check the car for physical signs of undisclosed flood damage. For tips on how to spot a flooded car, check out my video, Why Flooded Teslas Catch Fire. When Hurricane Ian made landfall, it was Category 4. Mind you, that's 4 out of 5 categories. Category 4 means winds ranging from 130 to 156 miles per hour. At that speed, anything that goes airborne or falls poses a high risk of injury or death. Category 4 blows out most windows in high-rise buildings and uproots many trees. We're talking power outages that can last for weeks or months. As a comparison, Hurricane Harvey, which hit Texas in August 2017, was a Category 4. Did you know that Floridians have been paying the highest home and car insurance premiums in the entire country, even before Hurricane Ian hit? In fact, Floridians were already paying more than 3 times the national average. That comes out to an average of $4,231 a year per home insurance policy, compared to a U.S. average of $1,544. Apparently, the insurance industry in Florida was already broken even before the hurricane hit. So much so that insurance premiums in Florida have been the fastest rising premiums in the country. Home insurance premiums in the U.S. typically rise about 9% each year. But in Florida, premiums rose about 33% per year in recent times because the system is just broken. The same applies to car insurance premiums. In Florida, average annual car insurance premiums cost $2,560 a year. And the average for full cover car insurance premiums in Florida is even higher at $2,762 a year. To put that in perspective, compare that to sunny California, for example. In California, the average annual car insurance premium is $2,115. By the way, if you're wondering which state has the lowest annual car insurance premiums, well, it's Ohio. The average annual premium there is just $1,023. Now, if you live in Florida, Louisiana, Texas, or anywhere that's prone to hurricanes, tropical storms, or flooding, be aware that just because you have car insurance doesn't mean you're automatically covered for flood damage to your car. It all depends on whether you have comprehensive coverage, how much comp coverage you opted for, and what your deductible is. Comprehensive coverage protects your car for weather-related damages, like damages due to flooding, from a hurricane, or dents from a hailstorm, and so forth. Actually, almost 80% of U.S. drivers with car insurance have comprehensive coverage of some shape or form. Not many people know this, but flood damage isn't covered by a standard homeowner's policy. The best bet for anyone living in a flood zone is to consider purchasing flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program. NFIP is managed by the FEMA, and it's available to people living in one of 23,000 participating NFIP communities. Here's another thing you might not know about flood coverage. Basically, if your house is the only one that was damaged by flood in your neighborhood, it's not considered flood damage by any home insurance company, public or private. Also, keep in mind that NFIP residential coverage benefits are capped at $250,000 and not a penny more. Residential contact coverage benefits are capped at $100,000. If you're looking to cover damage to your business, well, in that case, NFIP business coverage is capped at $500,000 for the building. Business contents coverage is also capped at $500,000. Once you purchase flood insurance, you have a 30-day grace period that starts the day you purchase it. Here's another tip. Check your homeowner's policy to see if you can file for any additional expenses to be covered. For example, some policies cover additional expenses to live outside of your home in the event of property damage, or the cost to replace spoiled food. But if a natural disaster causes the tree to fall on you and you want to pay for it to be removed, most home insurance policies won't cover the cost of the removal. And if you are thinking of hiring a public claims adjuster, all insurance premiums already cover any public claims adjuster services. Let's say your home gets damaged by a flood and you're underinsured, or worse, not insured at all. Believe it or not, uninsured flood loss due to Hurricane Ian is estimated to be anywhere between $10 to $17 billion. Those who fall in that category can apply to FEMA for assistance with uninsured or underinsured damage and loss. FEMA's job is to help the U.S. prepare for, protect against, respond to, and recover from any natural disaster, major incident, or terrorist attack. FEMA can offer up to $35,000 to help cover expenses for homeowners who suffer property damage. Even if you are only temporary staying in a property, you can still find financial help that can help cover cleanup and disaster-related expenses. The same applies to small businesses. Small businesses can go to FEMA and ask for small business loans to cover expenses due to property damage. FEMA financial help for small businesses can go up to $150,000. Analysts say that Hurricane Ian might end up completely crippling Florida's entire insurance industry. Just before Hurricane Ian hit, almost 1 million residents in the Tampa Bay area alone were enrolled in a national flood insurance program. But here's the thing. The largest home insurer in Florida is a state-run company called Citizens Property Insurance Corp. It was set up back in 2002 as a last resort for those who couldn't find home insurance coverage in the private market. But in the last 2 years alone, the number of policies more than doubled to 1.1 million. We're talking 13% of the state's market. It also owns an even larger chunk of market share in some of the largest counties. For example, they hold 39% of policies in Miami-Dade and 36% in Monroe County and 27% in Pinellas County. Citizens Corp claims that it has the necessary resources to pay the estimated damage claims from Hurricane Ian. But if claims exceed its resources, the company may raise premiums for all customers and possibly even place additional assessments. Some private insurers are estimated to have already lost some $63 billion collectively due to Ian. The premiums continue to rise 30% or more in Florida. Some Florida homeowners may even end up paying more for their home insurance than they do for their mortgage. But here's the thing. The home insurance industry in Florida has been in a crisis situation since 3 years ago. But now, due to Hurricane Ian, the crisis can turn into a collapse. To give you an idea, in 2020 and 2021, Florida's insurance industry as a whole reported underwriting losses exceeding $1 billion. 2022 is expected to follow suit, even before Ian got on anyone's radar. So you can see that even before Hurricane Ian hit, Florida's homeowners insurance market was already fragile and struggling on its knees. Since January 2020, at least 12 insurance companies declared insolvency. And 6 of these companies declared insolvency this year, even before Ian hit. On top of that, some 30 other companies have been in Florida Office of Insurance Regulations watch list because of financial instability. So you can see many insurers were already financially strapped as it was. And now Ian may tip a few more into insolvency. In fact, some have already announced bankruptcy. If you're wondering how the property insurance industry in Florida even got to this point, well, of course. Part of it is the sheer rank of vulnerability to hurricanes and tropical storms, but industry analysts blame the root cause on years of rampant frivolous litigation and major scams. In fact, it's because of that many major insurance and State Farm and Allstate even reduced their presence in Florida. For the better part of 2 decades, many of the country's major insurance have wanted very little to do with insuring properties in Florida. Despite all that, for every local home insurance company that closed its doors, the number of policyholders increased. In the months leading up to Ian, the number of policyholders went from 700,000 to over 1 million. In fact, government officials were already warning Floridians to expect assessments on their insurance policies and to expect premium hikes. And then, of course, the fact is that Florida laws encourage a lot more lawsuits against insurers than in other states. Back in 2021, there were 116,000 property claim lawsuits in Florida. To put that in perspective, California, which is a much larger state, had only 3,500 property claim lawsuits in 2021. In fact, analysts predicted Florida was on track to hit 130,000 property claim lawsuits this year. And that's before we even account for Hurricane Ian. It turns out that almost 80% of all homeowners insurance lawsuits in America come from Florida. But by contrast, Florida accounts for only 9% of all homeowners claims. So you can see a big problem. Here's an example of a typical property claim lawsuit in Florida. Contractor contracts a homeowner about potential damage. Then the homeowner signs an assignment of benefits agreement. This agreement enables the contractor to handle the insurance claim. Then the insurance company can dispute the amount or outright deny the claim. Once that happens, the contractor can file a lawsuit against them. And this can sometimes even happen without the policyholder's knowledge. Talk about a lot of lawsuits, but the problem doesn't lie in the number of property claim lawsuits per se. Many blame it on a lack of state regulation. Governor DeSantis passed stricter regulations on insurance companies. But industry analysts say that despite that, Florida is still letting the homeowner insurance industry call the shots on rates and the amount of coverage offered. And don't get me started on attorney's fees. After a property claim lawsuit is filed, attorney fees take over. In 2019, excess litigation was estimated to cost policyholders in Florida $1.6 billion. And that number only continued to rise in the years that followed. To cover lawsuit costs, home insurance companies were forced to raise their policy rates. This means the customer is effectively paying for all those higher litigation costs. Another factor contributing to the demise of the insurance industry is the sheer size of Florida's population. Did you know that Florida has the fastest growing population in the entire eastern United States? And smaller insurance companies have been struggling to build the same kind of capital reserve that the larger insurance build. So often they had no choice but to rely on their own form of insurance to pay out expensive claims. This is called reinsurance. The thing is, the worse storms get, the costlier reinsurance becomes. Because of that, reinsurance began pulling out of Florida, and the ones that stayed just raised their policy rates. So much that in 2022, reinsurance costs for Florida insurance rose by up to 50%. And of course, that trickled down to the customer, you. A whopping 35 to 50% of a homeowner's insurance premium ends up going towards the cost of reinsurance. If you're in Florida and you experience flood damage, just know that Florida law legally requires home insurance companies to notify each customer within 14 days of receiving a claim. The insurer has up to 90 days to notify customers on whether or not their claim was accepted or denied. Then the insurer has a maximum of 20 days to pay up. If it doesn't pay up before the deadline, then a 12% yearly interest rate kicks in. But now, you tell me, do you have car and home insurance? What price hikes have you seen? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.